We got our first look at the third DLC expansion for Borderlands 3 called Bounty of Blood, a Fistful of Redemption that releases on June 25th. But first we got a big free content update coming in the form of a new Guardian Breach takedown on June 4th. And they shared way more gameplay and a ton of info during the new Borderlands show, and I will tell you everything you need to know in this video. So a like would be super appreciated, and let's go. I first want to quickly touch on an update that is out right now if you play with an internet connection. They namely made it so that rare spawns in the second DLC now always spawn. So for example, that flying creature that can drop the Hydra Frost should now be easier to farm. And they also addressed a reported concern that dedicated drops for Wotan were not dropping in Mayhem 4. I think there were actually more issues, as Fashneck on Reddit actually also notes, so hopefully this fixes that. And overall we got some other changes to the takedown bosses as well. So Wotan is now the only boss that can drop the takedown specific weapons, while the Valkyries can only drop the takedown specific shields. World drops are still the same, and actually Wotan has a higher chance to drop these takedown specific weapons and can also drop more of them. But yeah, let's now look at the new takedown. That was planned for May, but is coming on June 4th, so it is slightly delayed. But we got a ton of gameplay now and also brand new info. So Tannis will send us to the planet of Minos Prime, and then you immediately see this takedown looks stunning. So it is of course 4 players, but it will scale also, so it should be more easily doable alone or with other group sizes. So there will be new enemies. We are of course fighting Guardians, but we can expect new variants of them. And the takedown will have a similar structure as we saw during the Molly 1 takedown. So a mini boss and then an invisible boss at the end as well. And from that boss we can of course expect teamed loot, and cosmetics will be available as well. Player skins, an echo skin and a room decoration was at least confirmed. No word on heads yet, but I hope so, because that is of course the coolest cosmetic. But that is not the only difference between this takedown and the Molly 1 takedown. No, that is the platforming that has to be done to get to the next part of the map. It did not seem too hard, but it's a nice change of pace instead of the constant action. They did mention puzzles as well, where some player had to do other things. So I'm curious how this works solo or how this works in general. But yeah, apart from shooting powerful enemies, it should at least have some different mechanics as well. Again, I think it looks really good, and just giving the Guardian enemies more of a spotlight for this activity is awesome, because we did not fight them enough in the main game. So alongside the free update on June 4th that includes the takedown, we will also finally get on that day those revive changes that we don't have footage of yet, but it will basically slow down the person in the fight for your life mode, making it easier for teammates to revive, and also the radius should be larger and multiple team members can help with the revive as well. And the June 4th patch will also include the first phase of Mayhem 2.0 changes, because right now a lot of things are of course wrong with this new endgame mode, as we discussed before in previous videos. So one thing I'm really happy about is that the item cards will now show the Mayhem level of the weapon, and they will also lower the health, shield and armor stats from the enemies on Mayhem 7 and higher, to make them less bullet spongy. But yeah, with this they will be nerfing and buffing some weapons that are over and underpowered. So use the yellow cake while you still can, and maybe the OP system will not be OP anymore. Will they change the name? Who knows? And by the way, this cartel event also ends on June 4th. So the day this new patch with the Guardian takedown goes live, you do not have a chance to get these items anymore. So do it while you still can. Gearbox did confirm though that all the anointments introduced during the Revenge of the Cartel event will remain in the loot pool after the event ends. So we can luckily still get those, but you want to get those weapons. And I have a big Cartel video on how to get everything super fast and other tips that I will link to at the end of this one for if you haven't watched it yet. But then it gets even more exciting, because on June 25th we will get the third expansion of the Season Pass. That is of course also included if you have the Super Deluxe Edition, or will be available separately as well. And I want to touch on it in a second, because on that same day we also get an update that includes more Mayhem 2.0 changes, namely that non-weapon damage sources like action skill damage, melee slide and slam damage will all be scaled to the Mayhem level. And also grenade mods will finally drop on the Mayhem level. So they are finally useful again. And overall, any loot source in a Mayhem mode will drop Mayhem gear based on the level. So chests, vending machines should all have Mayhem 10 items when playing on Mayhem 10. And that's of course great. And just in time for the third DLC, Bounty of Blood, a Fistful of Redemption, that also looks awesome. We knew it was going to be Western themed, but it's more than cowboys. Inspirations that were mentioned were 13 Assassins, 310 to Yuma, 7 Samurai, and the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And we see that in the town called Vestige on the planet Gehenna. And this town is more than just our hub. We have to protect it from this gang called the Devil Riders that ride dinosaurs. Yes, I'm a fan. And we actually have a new vehicle too, the Jet Beast, a half bike and half creature. And that's the only vehicle we can, by the way, use in this DLC, and we can only use it on this planet as well. But it looks great, and we got dual machine guns on it and mortar weapons. And in this footage we also see that the map is really made with this vehicle in mind. More new traversal mechanics come in the way of interactable objects, like the Telezapper, that is a teleporter, or the Breezer, that lets you jump to another platform. You got a core exploder that after meleeing it will create this shotgun blast that can even destroy the environment. And we also got the trader wheat that will make enemies friendly after shooting on it. Of course there are new enemies, new guns, and not only pistols were promised, like we should expect more guns, although pistols make sense of course for this setting. And overall it's really the goal to protect this town that should actually change over the course of the DLC as well. So by going on side missions you can maybe open stores that were closed before. For a crew challenge we have to collect film reels that can be watched in the theater, and if you collect all of them you have this short movie. They also talked about a prisoner you free early in the DLC, and then he will be at the saloon and actually sing a song about you and what you did. And then the more main stories you complete, the longer the song will be. So then at the end of the DLC you will have this whole song that compiled all the big story moments. Also sounds pretty awesome. And speaking of the story, we have an all new cast. So it seems like there are no returning characters. Maybe they're hiding something, but they really said an all new cast. Rose is our guide, the first character we actually meet, and will help us get to the village. And her family has lived on this planet for generations. And we also have Juno, who doesn't have an ideal past, so has to prove herself by helping you take out the Devil Riders. And then there's also an unknown narrator that we will not see in the DLC, but that will talk to us and actually give us more info about the world and actually speak with our Vault Hunter as well. So should be pretty interesting. It should be a big DLC, likely on the same level as the previous two, although I think it will likely be more like the second one because we got more new enemies and just content in general. But yeah, the game director also mentioned treasure maps, so there should be a ton to do, I'm sure. And we also got a teaser image for DLC 4 that we already assumed would take place in Creek's head, and this image seems to tease his split personality and maybe the sort of realistic car and other things here. Tease that we might learn how Creek became this psycho, but of course your theories are more than welcome in the comments. They just said that colors were confirmed for the DLC. And this final expansion will likely launch in September. Totally subscribe to stay up to date on all the big updates coming to Borderlands 3. When the update hits, the Guardian takedown, the new DLC, I'll be all over it and covering the new weapons and way more. Totally watch that cartel video by clicking on the screen if you haven't already and still need to get some of the items. Or you can compete with us in the Guess the Weapon challenge that we do at the end of every Borderlands 3 video. I'm curious if you can guess these weapons. Yo Dennis, we just had the Borderlands show. What are you the most excited about?
Well, there's a lot of things to be excited about, but me personally, I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with the platform sections, because they talked about doing more like platformy things in both the takedown and the new DLC, and I think they can do some really cool and creative stuff with that, so I'm very curious to see what that's going to be like.
Yeah, we haven't really seen that in Borderlands before. Obviously, Borderlands 3 kind of started it, so that's pretty exciting indeed. Okay, so we're gonna, of course, do Guess the Weapon. Should I guess first? Because we're already... Or is it my room? This is my room, actually.
This is your room, yeah.
So you want to guess first?
I fear... No, never mind. I'm not gonna say anything. Is this the Stalker?
Yeah! Nice.
Okay, so that makes the score 4-4.
Yeah.
Now, if you guess mine correctly, that means you're still slightly ahead.
Wait, there's a plant in front of it?
Now, you could just walk to the side.
What? Do you have the same weapon?
Just dead silent. Not gonna say anything.
I mean, it could either be the Malix
be.
Bane or the Stalker, I think. But
True,
the Stalker,
true.
the Stalker is blue, so I'm gonna say Stalker.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
I think we tried to pull the same trick on each other, where
Yeah.
both one or the other against the Malix Bane. I think the conclusion from this one is that we have the same terrible idea, so that should prove for some more exciting guesses in the coming round.
Yeah, so subscribe, of course, for everything Borderlands 3 if you haven't already. When an update hits on June 4th, and of course the DLC, we will be all over it, giving you everything you need to know. So subscribe if you haven't already. And check out our previous Borderlands video by clicking on the screen. For now, we will speak to you next time, and goodbye.